participants. We are very lucky to have 500 plus people, those, and so you can see these presentations later on in the due course of time through WhatsApp. Yeah, and our Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, is there with us.
I can't hear you.
He is there with us, and he has attended to the lecture delivered by Dr. Amir Ali Khan Sahab, and now he is also aware of lot many aspects like you people also. So he has learned lot many aspects. So that way we are very happy, and we are very obliged to our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir to be here. And now through him we can send this message to larger community, and we all are.
He said I'm also like a participant and a citizen.
And it is. So now I'll move on. See, to us it is something which is very clear that whatever earthquake we are talking of, it is a natural process, and at the same time the population, whoever is living at wherever, that is also has got its own way to grow. So as both the things are not in our control, so we can only mitigate, we can only reduce the impact of the earthquake through certain specific studies. And our 4 lectures, they are also divided accordingly. So it can be done by scientific study so that we know broadly, as during the inaugural speech it was told that till date we don't have process to predict the earthquake. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, on a bigger scale, we can find out, forecast the earthquake in a scale that we have seen lot of maps, you know, zone 5, zone 4, zone 3, zone 2, like that you are aware of it. It means there are certain zonation. It means large on time scale, large scale prediction or the forecasting is already made. So accordingly, one should be prepared. Now, third important point is challenges in the engineering and the building practices which are supposed to be followed. And after doing these, then still we need to know that what are the management plans, what is the earthquake forecasting, and what is the early warning systems. So all such things are very important. Now, the second thing is that you might have understood that disasters in India are becoming more frequent. As they are becoming more frequent, we need to be more aware of. And annual loss of life and economic losses due to any disaster so as is exponentially increasing, because as the time passes by, the population is increasing, and hence the material at loss is huge. Now, disasters to occur require several unfavorable factors to trigger together. If they don't occur, say if there is a lot of rainfall and the water is able to contain in a channel, in a river, so it is no hazard. So that's what there need to be. If the earthquake occurs, say in the epicenter is there in the Himalayan region, and it is not able to destroy or destruct anything, then it remains a hazard only. So that's why to become a disaster, any trigger, the hazard has to follow certain thing, that hazard should be at certain specific location. The local site conditions are very important. And what is the vulnerability of the structure? If the road is cut off, it is a high vulnerable area. Like this, there are lot many things which will be discussed with you in due course, in the two days due course. And the likely damage of the built environment is very important. And what happens that how resilience is the whole community is very important, because if the community is low resilience, means if we don't have money to sustain, and if earthquake occurs, so we are at more risk. So that is what is important. Now, this is what is already discussed or shown to you by Dr. Amir Ali Khan Sahab also, because hazard may be there anywhere, like zone 1, 2, 3, zone 2, 3, 4 are mapped. So there, that's what they say, that occurrence of earthquake is there. But the site, in fact, that one building may fail, but the other building may remain stable. That's what is implication of earthquake motions, which is dependent upon the soil, which is dependent upon the topography of the area. At the same time, the building construction and all, what has been discussed. And Finally, the building or the vulnerability is very, very important. If the population density is more, the impact of the earthquake is supposed to be more. So like this, it is affected. Same way, the resilience means if I have a building and the building is able to withstand the forces due to the earthquake, it will have a better. It may not give rise to the disaster. So that's what is important. Now, by this background, you can understand that today even a single earthquake take millions of life. It may cause lot of damage, and it may even finish off any mega city. There have been example of Haiti, wherein lot of damage occurred, and the country is still reeling under the damages, the pressure due to the earthquake. And because any single earthquake can bring in lot many economic depressions, as well as it may make the territory uninhabitable, and even the military balance in the region can also be affected. So remember, these are the low probability. They don't occur very often. They are the low probability events, but their impact is very, very high. Now, as we start with, as I told you in the beginning also, these earthquakes are not totally discrete events. Their possibility of occurrence, time, place, severity can be reasonably predicted, which we are going to talk on third day. What are the predictions? What are the forecasting methods? What Government of India is doing? How early warning systems are working? Can you get how much before you can get the information so that you are able to save your life? So with this know-how that where these earthquakes occur, you cannot reduce the extent of the damage, but you can reduce the impact of the damage. That's what is important. And all such things are joined together in the disaster risk mitigation, and it requires very methodical and orderly approach so that the earthquakes, they are countered. Now I'll take you a little bit about the reasons for the earthquake to occur. Now these earthquakes basically they occur because of the brittle failure in the rocks. And say failure means I'll say that this has to fail, or say if I'll say this has to fail, then it needs to take some forces, then only it will fail. So there is a process of building up of the stresses, then only it may fail. So that's what these stresses, these energies can be built up, and then only anything may fail. And these failures, because we are talking of big energy, huge energy, so they are not on local scale, they are on a national scale, more multinational scale, or you can call it on a regional scale where movement takes place. And that is what is defined under the tectonic plate boundaries. Just before I move ahead, just to tell you that some of the things which are related to the earthquakes, they are that there is one focus. The focus is the point which is within the surface of the earth where earthquake occurs, and that focus may be a point to start with, but it may get converted into the fault plane. All right, so wherever it is, it may get converted. The place just vertically above the focus is the epicenter. All right, so on the ground, the point which is just vertically above, the point which is just opposite to the focus or the epicenter or hypocenter is the anticenter. All right, so you can say that from here, when the earthquake wave starts, they move in such a manner and they can put force onto the surfaces. Now, when they put force from the background, from the underground or from below the ground, and they put the force, the building may be thrown up. If the building is able to move up, it means the gravitational force is not able to pull it back. So that's why it is called, when I say 1G, it means the gravitational force of the earthquake is equivalent to the gravitational force of the earth. So the building may be like freely flowing. So the things lying on the ground may flow freely. But normally the largest magnitude earthquake has got around 0.5 G gravity. So because of that, it may throw, but some forces are there to bring it down. So that's what is the important thing. But as you know that earthquake means it is a shaking. So what controls the shaking? Shaking is important. That the magnitude of the earthquake, if the more is the magnitude, it is simple thing. More the magnitude means more amount of energy is released. So definitely more shaking is there. And the distance, if the earthquake is occurring in Delhi, for example, don't take it otherwise, then the impact in Shillong, the place where I'm sitting, will definitely be less, because the shaking will go on decreasing with the distance, and definitely the local soils, that how the soils are behaving, the earthquake waves are moving, but how local soils move will will determine how much shaking is there, which is the final cause of the falling down of the structures. And that's what is by way of two waves, which are relay wave or the love waves. Okay. Now the important thing is that by now we already know that earthquakes are caused due to the motion of the earth plates, and this motion of the earth plates is actually a plate tectonic theory. But important thing to remember is that the motion of the plates is relative motion. All right, because the earth's total circumference is the same, so it is one plate moves relative to the other plate, and this is still continuing, and this relative motion is especially seen at the boundaries of the plates, and hence they are very, very important for us to understand. So that the whole of the earth is divided into different plates, and these plates, they are divided by different zones, plate boundaries you can see, and this is the divergent plate boundary is there. And similarly, this is what is a convergent plate boundary, as told again by Dr. Amir Ali Khan ji, that the convergent means when they come close to each other, divergent means when they go away from each other. So these earthquakes, if you just plot the earthquake epicenters, so you can see that how nicely these plate boundaries are defined. All right, if you don't know where are the plate boundaries, so there is nothing to worry, because these earthquakes, wherever they have been occurring, they define the plate boundary very, very nicely. Just to tell you that this is not a new process, this has been occurring since long. So you can see here down, it is the age is written in million years. So that's what is the present day time. You can see that the Indian plate was there in the southern hemisphere, has moved to the northern hemisphere. So these movements are there, hence the earthquakes, they are there since time memorial, and they have been occurring. Just to bring you closer to the Indian part, you can see that here the plates are converging. All right, convergent plate boundary is there. Here the plates are moving away from each other. Okay, now if somebody asks you where is the nearest divergent plate boundary of the Indian plate, then you don't forget that it is the Carlsberg Ridge is there. This ridge marks the nearest oceanic plate boundary where the new crust is being generated. You can see that the new crust is being generated. All right, so the divergent plate boundary is there, and once the new crust is formed, it cannot be eaten away. So whole of this plate, it moves, and as this move, it collides here. This is one plate only. All right, so it collides here, and as it collides with the Eurasian plate, then it gives rise to the earthquakes. There are some places that it is not that everywhere the volcanic mid-oceanic ridges, the movement will be divergent movement will be same. Some places it may be slower, some places it may be faster. If some part is moving faster and some part is moving slower, so this motion is basically the strike slip or the transform for motion is there. So that's what is important for you to know, that these are the three different types of boundaries which are existing. Now again, bringing it back to the Indian context, so you can understand that this is the boundary where the convergent plate boundary is there, and as you move away, the divergent plate boundary is there. So because of this convergent plate boundary, even the formation of the Himalayas, and you see that we are moving ahead, that such convergent structures give rise to huge mountain chains also. And just to tell you that what all places where the earthquakes may originate, so you know that this is the place where new crust is being formed. When the new crust is formed, there will be volcanic eruption here, so it will give rise to some of the earthquakes. And as one part moves faster, so transform fault also, there may be some earthquakes. But when one plate goes down, means the convergent part, there the number of earthquakes may occur. So the more earthquakes occur at the subduction zone or at the convergent plate boundary. Now we'll come to the Indian perspective. As I told you that the Indian landmass, it was there in the southern, this is what is the equator. it was there in the southern hemisphere. From the southern hemisphere, it has moved to the present state in the northern hemisphere. We know that tropics of Cancer is there passing through somewhere Allahabad and all that region. So we know that it has moved up to tropics of Cancer, this area. So in the past around 71 million years, the Indian plate has moved a huge distance. It has covered. It has moved a huge land. You can see that after interacting, it has interacted with the Indian plate. After interacting, this is the Indian plate with the Eurasian plate. Then it has divided into. If I'll compress, if this plate is coming, it will compress. As it compresses, then because of the tension, the other parts will go. So finally, it gives rise to lot many structures which are formed due to the compression, but they are the extension structures. So they give rise to the lot of microplates. These microplates and blocks are there. So that's why, although the main hitting of the Indian plate is at the Eurasian plate, but because of this compression, even in the Maharashtra, even in some parts of Rajasthan, even in some parts of say West Bengal and all, different microplates they develop. As these microplates they develop, or near Delhi, different microplates they develop, and they give rise to different faults, and they also have got the potential. So it doesn't mean that this whole plate, which is moving from the Carlsberg Ridge, when it hits, then in the process it has given rise to lot many microplates. And in the beginning, when the plate moved from the southern hemisphere, when it moved, it touched the Himalayan. In the Himalayan plate, the Indian plate touched the Eurasian plate, and the northwestern part in the Kashmir and all those areas. And after touching, after hitting, it started, because there was no more place to further, it has started taking anti-clockwise turn. And because of that, lot many structures they have developed, different faults they have developed, and they are the cause of the present day seismicity. Just to tell you that, just to show you that Indian plate, when it hits the Eurasian plate, then whole of the Tibetan part became part of it, and it has come up, and it has all this Himalayan mountains and all these structures, whatever they have come up, have almost 1,500 kilometers, 1,500 kilometers, due to the north-south collision of the Indian plate. So you can see that the whole of the Indian region, especially the mountainous region or the Himalayan region, becomes very, very active. And this crustal shortening, whatever has happened in the past 1,500 kilometers, shortening has occurred in the past 71 million years. Now, all these forces, they are giving rise to this India-Asia collision zone. And all these things are, shortening is there. And this Carlsberg Ridge, which is there, it is tectonic, it is still tectonically active. So the whole region is still tectonically active. Even it is proved by placing the present day, one of the technologies is the global positioning system, velocity vectors, that how different parts. So you can see here, say if you place the GPS stations, so they move with the same speed as that of the Carlsberg Ridge, and they are moving. The length of the vectors tells you that how much speed they are moving. Here, say the speed, say the length is less, means some of the forces, the speed is slow, it means some of the forces are getting accumulated in the Saurashtra, in the Maharashtra, or in the Gujarat region. Whereas the place where they become small, you can understand. Just to tell you, otherwise, that when the whole of the Indian plate is moving, after pressing, because there is no more force can be applied there, you can see that nothing is moving here. So because of this pressure, whole of this part is taking a clockwise turn. And what happens that the Indian plate is rotating anti-clockwise, whereas on the surface it shows as if the clockwise rotation is taking place. It is smoothly rotating. It also tells that this part of the Indian plate has also got some parts which are mobile, which are able to help the top part to move easily. So that's what is another important thing. Now, whatever seismicity, anywhere it occurs, whether in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, or in Delhi, or in Kashmir, or in northeastern part of India, they are all correlated with the major tectonic structures or lineaments in the area, different faults and different structures. And what structures are there? Their stress orientations, they are they match very well with the tectonics of the region. And what happens that if I collide, then there is one zone where the pressure stresses are there, but some parts are getting extended. So there also, in the perpendicular to that direction also, some of the faults they develop. And as they move, so the directions they keep on changing. And hence, because of this collision, the whole of the Indian plate, because now you can understand, is putting pressure and it is getting impacted. There have been, say, if the earthquake occurs of 3 magnitude, 2 magnitude, even up to 4 magnitude, we need not bother. There have been lot many earthquakes in Delhi area, or there have been lot many earthquakes in Mizoram area. There have been lot many earthquakes in different parts of the area, say Arunachal Pradesh also, which are being affected. So we need not be worried if the magnitude is less. But the important thing is that if the magnitude of the earthquake is more, and second thing is that depth of the focus of the earthquake is less, then the same earthquake becomes disastrous. And what happens that you can see that there have been in the past, say around 20 years, lot of such earthquakes that have occurred. There was Kunlun earthquake in the northern part of the Tibet. There has been some earthquakes in Yushu earthquake. Then there have been earthquake in the Wenchuan in the northeast of Indian territory, and there have been Sikkim and the Nepal earthquakes. All of them, they were very shallow earthquake. Now you can understand that the focus of the earthquakes was very shallow. Now that's what is one important thing to understand, because when we talk of the crust is normally 35 kilometers thick. Now, if the earthquakes are occurring at a depth of say 14 kilometers or 17 kilometers, it means the top part behaves in a slightly different manner than the deeper part of the crust. Yeah. So I'll take you to more now. Yeah, this slide here, one important thing which I was just telling you, that these days there have been some earthquakes in nearby Delhi region. So those earthquakes are ascribed to some of the faults of that region, and those faults are also associated with the tectonics of whole of the Indian plate. Some of the earthquakes are there in the Mizoram region. They are also associated with the Indian tectonics as a whole. So by understanding till now, you have understood that Indian plate, which is there, which is currently penetrating into the Eurasian plate, and as I told you already, that this is from here with a rate of 3 centimeter per year, the new crust is being formed, and it puts pressure on the Indian plate, and the Indian plate, it moves. I showed you with the GPS vector, it is moving beneath the northern and the northeastern edge of India under the Eurasian plate, and this conversion or this eating away or the subduction process is on. Now, as the Indian plate started getting anti-clockwise rotation, during that time it started touching with the Myanmar plate also, and along the Myanmar plate it has started going down, and it has gone to a very deep part, and there is the Myanmar part, and this part, as I showed you earlier, is a microplate which is adjusting all these forces of the main Indian plate. So you can understand now that the seismic activity is very, very important. So if you understand the seismic activity, then you can definitely think of reducing the damage, and even it will help you understanding the impending seismicity in the region. And this is a growing threat to the survival and the sustainable development of our civilization. If we don't understand the lithospheric dynamics, and if we don't understand the damage which can be caused, then we may face, and we may be unprepared, and we may be caught somewhere, and then it may be a great loss. Now, there is some of the things which are very, very important for us to know. That is there any type of thing called earthquake weather? Is there any weather that some people say that there are more landslides during the rains, and we already know that there are cyclones during some specific season. There are a lot of, say, floods during the rainy season. So a lot of things are there. So is there anything earthquake weather? So for all of us, because as the rainy season starts, or as the the more of the rainfall is there, the people are more afraid. Although the same earthquake may become more disastrous, that is a different thing. But as such, there is no earthquake weather. That earthquake may come any season or during any weather. So that's what is very, very important for us to know. There have been a lot of earthquakes. Now you can understand, you can correlate the earthquakes which are occurring in different zones, and you can correlate with the Indian plate tectonic activity. All right, you can understand that there have been earthquakes in different parts of India, and in the recent past, these are all the recent 7 or 6.2 magnitude and higher, which have become destructive. Say now some important things are there. Now the earthquakes intensity is one thing, but earthquakes magnitude is another thing. Now whatever these rounds are there, that's what is the place where the intensity of the earthquake has occurred. And all that intensity of the earthquake is, as I told you, the shaking of the earthquake. So as I told you, shaking of the earthquake. So the intensity of the earthquake is dependent upon the distance from the earthquake epicenter and the local material, whatever it is there. So we'll discuss to use earthquake intensity and magnitude in the third day, on the third day, when I'll talk to you about the earthquake forecasting in the beginning. So that's what is one of the important aspect. But I'll seeing the time, I'll just move little faster now. You know that there have been earthquakes, lot of destruction has occurred, and the recent one which we have seen from our own eyes is the Sikkim earthquake of 2011. So all these are the disastrous earthquakes. So it is not, then again, just to tell you that Indian plate collision is not new. It has been occurring, and there have been many earthquakes in whole of this region, and all the earthquakes, they were big or high magnitude earthquakes were there. And on the basis of the earthquake which have occurred only, there is the earthquake intensity map is prepared. So you can understand that which zone. So now, say for example, if you see that near Jabalpur and that area where there is a low risk, or even the place where Latur earthquake occurred, that is a low risk zone is there. But what happens that why low risk? Because in those areas, the Deccan basalt, the basaltic or the Deccan trap rocks, they are formed and they are very solid. So people used to think that if earthquake comes, these whole rock may behave as one block, and it may not, this area may remain safe, but the border area may only be at the damage. But now it is realized that this whole block has moved to a level that now it is getting obstructed. And when this block is pressed, then there may be some potential zones formed. So the Latur earthquake and the Koina earthquake, although for the Koina they say that there have been some disturbance even due to the dam and all, but basically they are due to the, say you can see the flow of the river. Flow of the river is normally along some of the weak zones. It indicates that there is some fault zone which is moving in this direction, and hence it may give rise to the such earthquakes. So we need to identify all such zones which are opening up by different studies. All right, which again I'll discuss with you on the third day. Now, the important thing is that first stage to think of earthquake risk mitigation, although a lot have been told by Dr. Amir Ali Khanji, but the important thing is that we need to reinforce the building. Now, say if I am constructing my building, I may not agree to reinforce or say make the building earthquake safe, but we need to educate the people so that they themselves follow the norms, and then by any government regulation you cannot do anything, but they themselves follow the norm and even remain prepared for any such such event to occur. And so with the disaster risk reduction, this whole theme which is UNISDR has made, it provides a conceptual framework so that you are able to possibly minimize the vulnerability of the structures and through the disaster risk, because I already told you that you are aware of the places where any such earthquake may occur. So at least at those places you should follow some of the norms so that have the sustainable development. You already know that level of the risk in any area is dependent upon nature of hazard, which can be studied, already you know that by scientific study, then the structures, whatever are coming up, are new or they are already existing. So you can find out the vulnerability of the elements, and then you can find out what is the economic value. So you can understand that same earthquake in Delhi will have more will be more vulnerable, whereas same earthquake in Shillong or say in some parts in dense forest area may be less vulnerable. Why? Because the economic elements will be of less use. But just to wind up, I would like to tell you that disaster risk mitigations means the first step is to identify the hotspots. That's what is the work. Say if in the Latur or in the Koina, the hotspot was there, but somehow it got missed. So how to identify the hotspots, I'll talk to you on the third day. That's what earthquake forecasting is. Second thing is that you also know that, say, if the hotspot is there, like what is the triggering factor, so that you understand that those activities, like if you are in a mountainous region and the ice is there and the chances of avalanche is there. So if you make more noise, more sound, the block of the ice may fall down. So some of the triggering phenomena are supposed to be known. Like in Koina, there was the fault, and when you construct a dam, then that dam it may become the triggering phenomena for the earthquake to occur. So I'm giving you just one example. Don't take it that the Koina earthquake occurred due to the dam, due to the reservoir. And we need to understand the comprehensive dynamic compendium of the hotspots so that we can work. At the same time, we need to know that we should have a policy to know the regional and the local and the community level the information. So there are 6 pillars of earthquake risk mitigation. The first important thing is we should have earthquake resistant construction. As was shown by Dr. Amir Khan, that there should be a lot of dampeners, lot of shock absorbers which are possible. Then those buildings which are already constructed, retrofitting of the already existing structures or the lifeline structures, means hospitals and schools and colleges, universities and all such places. Because one second, there has gone. 1 second, please. I think the share screen went off. Yeah, is it okay now? Is it okay?
Yes, it works.
Yeah.
Working.
So another 2-3 minutes now. So we should have enforcement and regulation in the place, because what happens that I have understood, I am intelligent enough to understand the impact of earthquake. So my baby following the guidelines, but the person next to my building, he doesn't follow the guidelines, and during the earthquake, that building falls on my building. So I am very good person, but the person staying next to me, because of him, I may face the damage, or I may face the consequences. So that's why there has to be regulation, and at the same time awareness and preparedness. You know that during the COVID situation, the awareness to the people, how it has worked and how we are able to save the life of the people. Definitely capacity development and emergency response we cannot skip off. All right, so now once we are talking of the building, then 2 important things are there which I want to share with you, that the waves are there. All right, when these waves are coming, they have got certain frequency. It is a simple thing to know. Now if I'll construct a building on the earth, okay, and the earth is a dynamic body, the earth is also shaking. So this building is shaking with the earth with certain frequency. When the earthquake wave comes, and if the frequency of the earthquake wave and the building matches, then the resonance may occur and the building may collapse. So that's why the type of building and its movement is very, very important. So by now we know that the natural frequency of 1-story building is 10, and by 3 to 4-story building is around 2 hertz. Around tall buildings is 5 to 1, 0.5 to 1, and high-rise building is 0.1 to 0.17, like this. Now when the earthquake is there, as you know that from the focus, when it comes to the epicenter, near the epicenter, the frequency of the earthquake is highest, as I told you, and that is around 11 or 12 hertz. As it goes away, the frequency of the earthquake waves goes down. So that's what in Latur, or when the earthquake occur, or in Bhuj when the earthquake occur, all the small buildings, because the 3-storied buildings or 1 or 2-storied buildings, their frequency was more, so they got impacted. When the earthquake waves traveled to the Ahmedabad, then the buildings which are very tall rise buildings, they got affected. So it doesn't mean that the same earthquake cannot affect different type of buildings. So as it travels farther, the 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 frequency decreases, and then it may impact the taller building. So you should be very cautious. Now the purpose of whole of this training program is to have, with a vision to have a sustainable development, although it is written urban, but it is urban and the rural development both, and have a quality of life. We also say the countries like America, like Japan, like Europe, what is the difference? Difference is they have moved one stage ahead because of whatever reasons maybe, but they have got one stage ahead and they are fully prepared to tackle the earthquakes of certain magnitude. So we also need to be prepared that level, so that we are not unprepared, and we are making a lot of losses. Now, just this is what is the last time for today. That whole of this training and the aim of the earthquake risk mitigation is, first thing is to reduce the potential losses. If you are aware of that your house is in zone 5, then you should be cautious enough while preparing the building, so that you are able to reduce the loss. And there should be assured, prompt and appropriate assistance. Now what happens that if we know that this is zone 5, this building has come up, which is at risk, so at the village level there should be emergency kits prepared, so that very promptly I know my resources and I can put whatever resources are required to tackle the earthquake, like even placing the NDRF teams or SDRF teams, National Disaster Response Force, or State Disaster Response Force, such teams in such a place where a prompt and appropriate action is possible. And that's what finally the target is, to achieve rapid and durable recovery. If we are able to recover durably, we are able to save lot of life and property. All right. So now you can understand, we have got a emphasis on mitigation and preparedness. This is what is the phase, because in our generation we have not faced major earthquake, 8+ magnitude earthquake. Our earlier generation has seen some of the earthquakes in 1934, 1897, 1950, 1908, like that. They have seen some of the earthquakes, but we have not seen. So it is a time to mitigate and to mitigate through preparedness and through prevention. All right. Now, just remember one thing, as I told you in the beginning, that these earthquakes are low probability, but high impact events are there. Now, if you are preparing, you may prepare well for today evening's birthday party, because that party you are going to be meeting, although today in this present time you cannot meet, but you will be meeting your friends and all, and you'll be thinking about your dress, you'll be thinking about your food or whatever, but they are occurring it, you are able to see it, but the things like earthquakes you can't see. If you prepare and when the earthquake comes and everything is normal, then the people think that nothing happens. All right. So like in Japan, when the earthquake comes, they are so prepared. When the earthquake comes, their Shinkansen brake is there. There is no damage to trains. There is no damage almost to buildings until unless they are disaster safe. So nobody thinks. So that's what is the biggest challenge, that when you undertake the disaster risk reduction, in the process, people think that everything is safe. So you need to be very cautious while working. So as all the things already I told you, that whole of the Indian region lies in a zone where not many some hidden structures are there, and through that we need to take care. I have come to an end, but probably we were so late, so I don't know how we'll move ahead with some of the questions, but I will request the host to ask some of the questions to the panelists, so that we can discuss some doubts or some of the issues, and we can be prepared, and we are able to tackle the earthquake from our perspective. Thank you.